Hey, happy Thursday. Thanks for joining us on this lunchtime forecast. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox with your forecast today. This was unexpected yesterday. It was the little storm that could, producing golf ball sized hail in December out in South Carolina. We're going to talk about that storm that we saw yesterday. Our meteorologists here at Hail Trace, they were mapping it. And here comes the Clipper. I'm not talking about the basketball team. We are talking about the Alberta Clipper that is moving down, bringing Canadian air, cold air into the northern plains. And we are also talking about warm air out to the west. So it's a little bit of everything in this forecast. Temperatures are staying a bit above average for this time of the year, but we'll get into that. All right, take a look at the storms that we saw yesterday. So we saw that initial line of storms. You can see that in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. But ahead of that line, we had a few isolated storms that popped out a little bit of hail, and they were pretty impressive in size. I think that we saw quarter-sized hail farther down to the south. However, if you go up to the north near Columbia, that is where we saw the golf ball-sized hail. We saw a picture of that. It was reported in our hail reports there from the National Weather Service. And of course, our meteorologists were mapping that storm yesterday. And it's one of those things that we just don't get a ton of in December. So we were excited about this. We were like, all right, this is happening. Here we go. Golf ball sized hail near Columbia yesterday. South Carolina saw some really good hailstorms. But other than that, it was pretty quiet yesterday. We saw a little bit of we saw a little bit of rain across Tennessee. There's all of that rain from that line of storms that we started out yesterday with a tornado warning, and we ended the day with golf ball sized hail. It ended up being a little bit more of an active day than we expected. Talking about snow now, you can see that we saw a system moving from Alberta, Canada, all the way down to the northern plains, and it's continuing to move off to the east now into the Midwest. So we call it an Alberta Clipper because it starts up in Canada, and then it brings all of this cold air across the northern half of the U.S., and temperatures are just going to drop. Temperatures are going to tank. That's what we call it. Temperatures are going to tank, and you can actually see that. Look at that. In North Dakota, temperatures are way below average for this time of the year, but they are pretty isolated with those colder temperatures. We're pretty warm through the central and western portion of the U.S., and then we've got that cooler air from that cold front yesterday moving into the east. Now talking about tomorrow into Friday, look at that, cool down on Friday. Temperatures are going way below average all the way through the plains, out to the east as well. So grab that coat because you're probably going to need it as you wake up tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening as well. All right, taking a look at your current conditions. So here's your current radar. We've got some snow up to the north. We have that warm front moving through the central and eastern portion of the U.S. right now. Other than that, it's pretty quiet out there. The showers and storms that we saw yesterday now off of the east coast into the ocean, into the Atlantic Ocean there. Pretty quiet across the northeast for now. However, all of this snow is going to move across the Midwest and into our New England states as we head into the next few days. We're pretty quiet across Florida as well. Saw those showers yesterday, dry today. Dry across Oklahoma. We've just got some of those cooler temperatures today, but not as cold as yesterday. So we've seen a little bit of a warm up. That's pretty nice. And we've got some showers on the west coast as well, keeping Seattle pretty wet this time of year. All right, 49 today here in Oklahoma City, a bit warmer than what we saw yesterday. 55 in Dallas. You can see those temperatures as you head farther to the north are drastically colder, 24 in Minneapolis. But I bet if we had a marker on North Dakota, those temperatures would be in the teens, if not the single digits right now. It's cold up there. They're getting winter weather. Winter weather alerts are just plaguing the northern portion of the plains all the way out to the Midwest. So you can see these pink and purple areas. That is your winter weather alert. So we've got your winter storm warning highlighted there in pink. We've got your winter weather advisory highlighted there in purple. This goes all the way through Friday. However, some high winds just to the south of this through South Dakota and Nebraska is going to be something to watch today. We could see gusts up to 60 miles an hour all the way through this evening. So this ends this evening, if not this afternoon. And talk about your future radar, holy moly, snow. Look at all of that. We've got North Dakota all the way over to Minnesota and Wisconsin going to be plagued by that snow today as well. We're not talking about terribly high snowfall totals. However, it is making a dent in that snow drought that we often see this time of the year. We expect some really good snowfall totals in this area of the country, but we've just gotten a light dusting, occasionally maybe 1-2 inches every now and then. We're not going to get a ton here. However, we could get more as we go into Michigan and then off into the East Coast over the next few days. This little system is going to just slowly track across the northern portion of the U.S. What about that severe weather today? Well, it's not looking very promising. It's low to no risk today. I like to say low to no risk because as we saw yesterday, you can't rule out storms. However, I think there's an extremely low chance to see any significant storms today. So for your hail forecast, no significant hail expected today. Alrighty, moving on here to your radar out to the west. We're pretty wet along the west coast right now. We've got all of those showers and storms coming into the northern portion of California up through Washington and Oregon as well. That'll be going on through the next 24 to 48 hours. We've stayed pretty wet in this area where it just kind of rains on and off, very typical for Seattle this time of the year. It's that cold rain. And talk about cold, you can see those temperatures just dropping with all of that cold air coming in from Canada. So why do we call this an Alberta clipper? It's because all of that cold air originates up in Alberta, and then it very quickly moves across the northern portion of the U.S. Now, a clipper was a ship, a big, fast-moving ship way back in the, we'll call it the olden days. We'll just say many, many years ago. It was a fast-moving ship. So the LA Clippers, also named after this type of ship. But it was so fast-moving, that is where an Alberta clipper gets its name, because it's a fast-moving, low-pressure system that's going to bring this cold Canadian air across the northern portion of the U.S. And oftentimes, just like what we're seeing now, we're going to get some snow and some winter weather with that as well. So that's exactly what we're expecting over the next few days. Sometimes whenever this cold air pushes down into the U.S., it's going to push some colder air down to the south as well. And that's exactly what we're seeing, where those temperatures are dipping as we head into the central, eastern, and southeastern portion of the U.S. We're not talking about Canadian cold air. We're not talking about single digits. We're not even talking about teens here. However, it's cooler than what you have been seeing over the last 3 to 4 days. So you can see all those blues starting to dip down into the southeast, but then we'll slowly start to warm back up as we head into the end of the weekend. And if you're wondering about your Christmas break, what are the temperatures going to be like as you're headed off to all of those Christmas and holiday plans, I'll have that for you here in just a few minutes. But let's talk about all of that wet weather here. You can see it continue to move across the Midwest into the Northeast. So if you're doing some early holiday traveling here, you're probably going to run into some traffic issues. You're probably going to run into some travel issues, as well as we've got just a little bit of snow, maybe some ice mixing in out in Ohio through the Midwest, and then through our New England states. It's not going to last long. As I mentioned, this is a fast-moving system. So this will most likely be out of here by Saturday or Sunday, but not before leaving a big trail of snow in its path. So we could get a dusting through some of our Midwest states, but we're really watching for some of those northern states for those higher snowfall totals. Not a ton of snow here. We're talking about 4 to 6 inches. If you're lucky, maybe you'll get 9 to 10 inches of snow in some very isolated spots. And that's why we have all of those winter alerts on there that you saw in the pink and purple earlier in the forecast. But there you go. You've got some pretty impressive snow up through New York on the western side of the state there, maybe 8 to 10 inches in this area. What are we talking about for temperatures through the rest of the U.S.? Well, while Bismarck is getting single-digit temperatures today, I mean, this evening, they're down to 2 degrees and then 5 degrees below zero by tomorrow morning. You're definitely going to need your big coat up there. We've got the teens in Minneapolis. Meanwhile, down in Oklahoma City and Texas, we're sitting in the 30s and 40s, and that's pretty consistent across the southeastern portion of the U.S. We've got some colder air dipping down into the Midwest as well, but as we go throughout the weekend, you're going to see that cold air attempt to move into places like Michigan. Look at that, 4 degrees below zero in Minneapolis by Saturday morning. By Saturday afternoon, we try to warm up a bit, but we're still in the teens as we head into Sunday. So cold enough to snow. We're definitely going to see some snow in these areas. Temperatures Farther down to the south, staying in the 30s and 40s, pretty typical for this time of the year. We've got 50s by Sunday afternoon in Oklahoma City. And hey, check that out, 60s in Denver. I was talking about some of that warmer air across the rest of the U.S., and we're seeing it right there, 60s in Denver, way above average for this time of the year. So let's get right into it. Holy moly, we have a really good chance to be above average for your temperatures as we head into Christmas. So we're talking about Christmas Eve all the way through next weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend. We're talking about temperatures above average here. Do you see all those reds and almost a burgundy color right through the center of the U.S.? That means that we have a high likelihood of being above average in all of these areas. That doesn't mean warm weather. We're not getting 70s and 80s, no. Maybe down in Houston, but for the rest of the country, we're talking about above average temperatures. So I'll give you an example here of how to read the map. If the average high here in Oklahoma City was in the mid-40s, I think that's pretty typical for this time of the year, maybe low 50s, upper 40s. We're talking about a really good chance to be above that as we head into the next week, Christmas week here, the 24th through the 28th. What about that rainfall chance? Well, it looks pretty promising as we head through this Christmas week as well. We've got a really good chance to see some wet weather out on the West Coast. We've got a really good chance to see some wet weather anywhere from Texas all the way to Oklahoma, really putting that bullseye over Arkansas there. So we've got a good chance to see either showers or snow in the next 7 to 10 days, 6 to 10 days here, talking about Christmas week here. So we've got a lot going on in our forecast. Yesterday we saw all of those showers and storms producing golf ball sized hail, quarter sized hail out in South Carolina. Excuse me, I'm gonna cough real quick. I think that this weather is getting to me, all those temperatures going up and down and up and down. Makes me cough a little bit. Maybe it's the allergies, I don't know. But we are going to be continuing to watch this. If anything pops up today, we of course will be talking about it on all of our social media pages. Yesterday, whenever that golf ball sized hail popped up in South Carolina, we were talking about it on social media. We were looking for pictures, and of course our Hail Trace Mets were mapping those storms for you. So follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We do a lot of fun and we do a lot of fun things on there, and weather educational things as well. And if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map, head over to our website, hailtrace.com, or give us a call at 855-334-4245, or email us at info@hailtrace.com. You know, in December, we don't expect a ton of hail, but just like what we saw yesterday, it can always happen, and we're always watching it here. So give us a call if you are interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map. All right, thanks for joining us today for your noon forecast. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and I'll see you back here same time, same place tomorrow.